Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. I'm Kristen Hawthorne and here are your top stories on Monday the 16th of February. Overnight firefight. Kent Fire Rescue sees off Canterbury incident that sent a pillar of smoke over the high street. County Town crackdown. Maidstone Partnership launched to tackle illegal vape sales.
And when shops refuse to sell or when they gather around stores that do sell a lot, then we get the associated antisocial behaviour and the challenges.
And flipping amazing. We take a look back at the origins of Shrove Tuesday and some traditions behind it. Hello and welcome. So to top us off, we are starting off with some breaking news that came out today, as 3 defendants have been acquitted of the murder of 49-year-old Alexander Cashford, who died on the 10th of August in 2025. A 16-year-old girl, 16-year-old boy and a 15-year-old boy have been on trial at Woolwich Crown Court since the 13th of January. Our reporter Naila Mohammed joins us in the studio now to tell us those latest updates. So, we've been following this story since it began, so can you tell us what actually happened today?
Yes, so a jury of 12, 6 men, 6 women, have found the 3 young defendants not guilty of the murder of Alexander Cashford. As you said, it's a 16-year-old girl, 16-year-old boy and a 15-year-old boy. They've been on trial at the Woolwich Crown Court since the 13th of Jan, accused of the murder of Alexander Cashford on the 10th of August last year in Laysdown. The jury, although not finding them guilty of the murder, they did find guilty the 16-year-old girl and the 15-year-old boy of manslaughter, and the 15-year-old boy had previously pled guilty to the death of Mr. Cashford on the 3rd day of the trial.
And of course the trial is still ongoing, but why are the 3 defendants actually in that trial?
So Mr. Cashford met the female defendant, the 16-year-old, at Playtime Arcade on the 8th of August last year, where he supposedly gave her a business card. The trio then sent the 49-year-old man around 75 messages over the course of 2 days, which leads us to the 10th of August. And they were sending him these messages under the visor of a 16-year-old girl called Sienna. And they had arranged for Sienna to meet Mr. Cashford at the nearby seafront, and footage from CCTV shows that Mr. Cashford was walking along the footpath with the female defendant towards a pub, and they were followed by the 2 boys, the 16-year-old and the 15-year-old. He was then hit over the head by a bottle by the 16-year-old boy and chased by the trio. Eyewitnesses told the court that they found Mr. Cashford lying face down in the mud. The 16-year-old boy did throw some rocks at Mr. Cashford as well, but evidence in court, when giving evidence, he did say that he didn't want to hurt Mr. Cashford, he never wanted to hurt Mr. Cashford, just seriously injure.
Okay, thank you so much for those details, Naila. We will be following that story as the trial continues. Next, the body of a 60-year-old man has been recovered from a marina in Ramsgate after the emergency services were called to the scene. The Ramsgate RNLI lifeboat was launched to an incident just after 10 a.m. today. A police spokesman said their death is not being treated as suspicious and a report will be prepared for the coroner. Ramsgate County Councillor Terry Mole said, "This is an incredibly sad incident and my thoughts are with the family and the friends of the individual involved. The man's next of kin has been informed." And next, arrested in Kent, 2 men have been sentenced to 7.5 and 10 years respectively for buying a gun from a criminal network based in London and Essex. The network's manufacturer, a lorry driver from Essex, has been jailed for life for manufacturing illegal firearms and explosives and possessing material linked to terrorism. I spoke to the detective in charge and I have this report. A man from Sevenoaks has been jailed for 7.5 years after buying a converted firearm linked to a wider criminal network. Ryan Smith from Dunton Green was arrested alongside Alan Crosby, who was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Both 44, the pair, who were both prohibited from possessing firearms and ammunition, were linked to the items through DNA evidence and admitted to buying the converted weapons from McKenna's criminal network.
From the firearm we recovered in Kent, we were able to get some forensic evidence that identified McKenna and take our investigation forward to focus on him as the manufacturer of firearms.
This meant that police were able to search a caravan linked to McKenna.
So he was a significant manufacturer of firearms. He supplied them as a business along with his associates who also treated this as a business. They supplied them to whoever would buy them. So if there were people in Kent that wanted to buy firearms, they may have come in to this organised criminal group to source them. Now that we shut down this organised criminal group, we've made sure that no firearms from McKenna or others are going into London or Kent or any other location. In the caravan belonging to Thomas McKenna, we found a number of guns that were both converted, unconverted and decommissioned. We found homemade explosives and homemade explosive powder, as well as ammunition.
During the investigation, police also uncovered private social media messages in which he expressed extremist views and discussed preparing for what he described as a race war. McKenna later admitted to 14 offences, including firearms and explosive charges, and possessing material linked to terrorism. He was jailed for life with a minimum term of 16 years. Detectives say that there is no evidence to suggest that the weapons recovered in Kent were intended for extremist attacks, but they are urging people to report harmful or extremist material seen online.
There are a number of ways to report. You can do it on the counter-terrorism sources. There's specific addresses that you can use for counter-terrorism or terrorism-related material to report that into the police and to the counter-terrorism units operating in those areas. You can report it into Kent Police or the Met Police, depending on the location, but just making sure that we know about it so that we can take action where appropriate.
With the key figures now behind bars, the network responsible for supplying illegal firearms has been dismantled. Kristen Hawthorne, KMTV. Next, this Valentine's Day, couples on Canterbury High Street would have seen a pillar of smoke emerging from the derelict Odeon on the Ring Road. The fire service has told us that no one was injured and the cause remains unknown. So Chloe Brewster is down at the former Odeon now to tell us more. Hello Chloe, can you first of all tell us what happened?
Yes, so over the weekend, fire crews were called to here at St George's Place, the Odeon in Canterbury. That fire raged on over the weekend, and people living here were told to shut their windows and doors due to all of the smoke. Services remained on scene until around till the morning today, just to deal with dampening down those flames and dealing with the smoke. Finn McDermott was here over the weekend and he created a timeline of the events which happened, and you can watch that now.
At 2 p.m. on Valentine's Day, a large plume of smoke could be seen at the top of Canterbury High Street, billowing from the derelict building that was once an Odeon cinema. These images were taken at around 4 p.m. on Saturday, 2 hours after Kent Fire and Rescue Service arrived at the scene. There were around 15 fire engines that were lining New Dover Road, with multiple areas cordoned off and plenty of people watching the area. Ambulances were also at the scene. Crews continued to work throughout the night, so by the time the sun rose, the service confirmed that only some light smoke remained, but crews were still on the scene. This included 2 fire engines and a height vehicle who remained to dampen down hotspots. People living in the area were at the time advised to keep their windows and doors closed to avoid inhaling any smoke. The cinema itself closed around the time of the COVID-19 pandemic and has remained shut ever since. In a statement this morning, a fire service spokesperson said there were no signs of heat or smoke in the building. They've now told us that firefighting operations are now complete following a fire at a derelict building at St George's Place in Canterbury. The KFRS volunteer response team was also in attendance to provide welfare support to crews. We are now working with Canterbury City Council to provide support to nearby residents and businesses unable to access their properties at this time as a safety precaution. There were no reported injuries and the cause is not yet known. Finn McDermott for KMTV in Canterbury.
the next door neighbour, Tokyo Tea Rooms, that's a nightclub, and that's just around the corner from the Odeon building there. The Tokyo Tea Rooms says they're hopeful there isn't any damage. The latest statement from Kent Fire and Rescue is that firefighting operations are now totally complete at the derelict building behind me there. At the height of the fire, 15 fire engines and 2 height vehicles remained on scene, with firefighters and specialist teams working hard throughout the day and overnight to bring that fire under control. They say that they're now working with Canterbury City Council to provide support to nearby residents and businesses unable to access their properties as a safety precaution. There were no reported injuries, thankfully, and the cause is not yet known. For the residents here, it was obviously a scary time. There's a student accommodation nearby, and during the fire, while that was raging on over the weekend, they were all having to evacuate their home. So yeah, a scary one, and I hope we find out what caused it soon.
Chloe Brewster there bringing us the details of that story. We'll be catching up with her again later in the show for more and see if anything else has happened. And if you or your business has been affected by the fire, be sure to let us know as well. But that's all we've got for this part of the show. But coming up, we will be finding out more about a vape action in Maidstone and speaking to Ollie as well about that. And we will also be having a look at the weather. Over the weekend there was some pink skies, so maybe we'll be having some more in the future, but we'll see. And all of that and more after this break. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight live here on KMTV. Now, a new scheme has been launched in Maidstone to tackle illegal vapes and stop sales to children. The local vape action project will see local authorities working with retailers to make sure shops are following the rules. Local democracy reporter Ollie Leader hit the streets of the county town to see what difference this could make to public safety.
It's a new approach to tackling dodgy vape sales in Maidstone, with the local Vape Action Partnership bringing together trading standards, the local council, Kent Police and retailers to ensure those selling the nicotine products aren't putting public safety at risk.
Something like this can really make a positive impact on helping people to know that they're using the right shops that have been approved and that are within the LVA scheme, and that is something that will really help the public.
There are more than 50 retailers across the borough of Maidstone the LVA are hoping to work with to reduce the number of underage vape sales as well as the proliferation of illegal vape products.
The majority of businesses that we deal with, 80 to 90%, are normally compliant. We're aware of some in the area that obviously aren't, and we'll be focusing on those with our partners. And if compliance activity doesn't work, then the legislation allows us to take further activity and possibly even prosecution.
The scheme has already been rolled out in Tunbridge Wells and Ashford, with hopes that success here will be replicated nationally later in the year. Meanwhile, Maidstone vape shops believe it will make it easier for those retailers who aren't flaunting the rules.
Well, we're a dedicated vape store, so we operate slightly different to maybe some other stores that are out there. I believe that a good part of the problem is coming from stores which maybe sell vaping products on the sidelines, so that maybe they're not as educated in the sector. So that's where obviously this group will hopefully come into its own and ensure that we can spread the education.
It's early days here in the county town, but with retailers already coming on board, there's hope that illegal sales will go up in smoke. Ollie Leader in Maidstone.
And Ollie joins me now to tell us more. So, Ollie, why was this implemented in Maidstone?
Well, several reasons. For a start, Maidstone Borough Council wanted to work with Kent Trading Standards and other partners on this. So it is that thing where if you have an authority with protection officers out and about that wants to tackle these issues in their town, you're going to be more likely to have a rollout in that area. But it is also because there is local demand. You walk down Maidstone High Street, you do see lots of vape shops, retailers selling vapes, and based on consumer research done by the local Vape Action Project, they surveyed around 200 people, and looking at the data, 69% of people said they were aware of illegal vape sales in the town, either from reading the news or hearing about it or even seeing it, and 23% of people say they have actually seen or strongly suspect illegal vape sales in Maidstone. And talking to Maidstone Borough Council's protection officers, talking to the people behind the scenes, they say that there's a wider problem here around safety in the town.
What's worrying for us is that young people are often starting with vapes rather than coming to vapes from tobacco, which was the prescribed route, if you like. So now we're seeing a situation where young people are experiencing vapes because they're cool or because that's what their friends are doing. So we're seeing uptake in that regard. And when shops refuse to sell or when they gather around stores that do sell a lot, then we get the associated antisocial behaviour and the challenges for the businesses themselves. It's just not healthy for the borough as a whole.
And this has also been taking place in Ashford as well. This isn't the first local vape action that's happened in Kent. How do they actually work in practice?
So in Tunbridge Wells and Ashford, it's rolled out in 2024, and 2024 in Tunbridge Wells, later in Ashford last year. And there are several things they do. It's not just about enforcement and crackdown. It's about working with retailers, providing them information about how to source products correctly so they don't end up accidentally selling something that doesn't meet legal regulations. But there is also that idea of making sure you're not selling to under 25. They do test purchasing, for example. They go and test to see if Challenge 25 is being implemented. There's a wide variety of things. There's a mixture of almost sticks and carrots, as it were, to encourage people to sell the right products and maintain the rules.
All right, thank you so much, Ollie. Now, a Kent driver is warning other people selling vehicles online after ruthless black oil scammers sabotaged his car during the sale. Jay Cross from Folkestone says 2 men posting as buyers distracted him while secretly pouring oil on the engine of his Mercedes in a calculated bid to convince him it was worthless. When they started the engine, the smoke poured out. Similar incidences have been reported elsewhere in the company as well. So now the victim is urging people to sell their cars through trusted buyers or have a known person during the process. Next, a family-run garage in Dartford has put one of its sites on the market as its owners prepare to step back after nearly a quarter of a century in business. Orchard Garage Ltd has listed its premises in Park Road just off the A296 Princes Road interchange for sale for a guide price of £795,000. The owners Pam and Jeff Manwaring have stressed that the move is not a closure and that their other branch will in Heath Lane will remain open. Pam said, "We've been trading for nearly 24 years now, and anyone who runs their own business knows it's not just a 9-to-5 job. We've loved being a part of the Dartford community, but we want to step back and we don't want to retire completely." And locals in Aylesford have complained about a newly introduced charge for parkings in the area. The changes are part of a scheme across the whole Tunbridge and Malling area to introduce uniform parking charges across the borough. Car parks in Aylesford area were previously free and frequented by visitors and locals, but now they're empty, whereas the roads are filled with cars parking there instead of causing congestion, according to residents. The Borough Council say charges were introduced in response to a 15% cut in spending power and to combat issues with long stay vehicles. And next, a much-loved dad died after being crushed by a concrete drain at Eurolink Industrial Estate in Sittingbourne. An inquest is heard. Joe Heath was helping build a new logistics centre for Cook Classic when his death occurred. Dozens of tributes have been paid to Heath and his wife, describing him as a gem of a person. The court heard Joe had been attending a large concrete drain which had been lowered into a hole. There was no suggestion that Mr. Heath did not follow the usual procedure, and the coroner ruled further investigations were necessary. Now, don't forget you can keep up to date with all our latest stories across Kent by logging onto our website kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find all of our stories, including this one about a small business from Gillingham that has won the opportunity to become one of a season-long sponsor with their local football team.
For many small businesses, good marketing opportunities would be leafleting or even a billboard. But for Monarch Mortgages from Gillingham, they've been invited to join the big boys in football sponsorship. After winning the Behind the Badge campaign by Sage, owners Simon and Sean have received an exclusive sponsorship package of Gillingham FC, which will see their branding illuminate pitchside all season long.
For us as a local business, as a small local business, it's massive. Obviously, we're frequent visitors to come and watch the games as well. So to be able to be sitting and seeing our brand around the stadium in front of so many people is a fantastic opportunity for us. We've been around for 6 years or so now, but to get that presence out there and to see that we're sort of representing our community and seeing that in that space is massive for us.
A lot of our business at the moment is word of mouth, but we're hoping by the kind of marketing that we'll get here that will obviously grow it even more, because we are just a quite a small family run business that we're literally about 10 minutes from here, so yeah, it'd be great to get the word out. We try and get to as many games as we can, but obviously thanks to Sage we're now be able to do that even more often. We're going to sort of block some weekends out and get down to as many home games as we can.
With the stadium nestled right here in the centre of Gillingham, there's not much better marketing you can get, especially as that marketing is totally free.
I think it's massive, especially for a club like ourselves, to have the businesses that put their own money in, and it really does help, and we really appreciate it. And yeah, it's like a fantastic competition, you know, for Sage and the EFL to put forward, and you know, Monarch Mortgages have obviously have won that competition, and it's fantastic for them, and they get their sponsorship around the LED boards for the rest of the season, and yeah, I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of that on match day. So it's yeah, fantastic. I actually live next door to one of the colleagues they work with, so you're seeing them, you're having a personal feel, and it's yeah, it's brilliant to see.
The team here tell me the goal of this opportunity is to shine a light on the small businesses at the heart of their football community. Chloe Brewster for KMTV in Gillingham.
Time for the weather now. Looks like it's going to be a bit of a chilly one tonight. 5s across the board, except with Margate and Dover having temperatures of 6. Bit cloudy with possible light showers in Medway. Strong winds into the east. We've got 3 degrees across the board. 6 degrees across the board tomorrow afternoon and evening. 10 miles per hour and 40 miles an hour wind speeds. Wednesday we've got 5 degrees, cloudy skies. 6 degrees on Thursday, clear skies, good day. And then on Friday, 8 degrees, cloudy skies again. And again, it's time for another break, but we've got plenty more stories coming up, such as we'll be speaking back with Chloe again about the fire that happened over the weekend. And a pub in Croyner dropped 4 stars during a hygiene review. But there's also much more, and I think we'll be getting to that pink sky very soon. Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. I'm Kristen Hawthorne and here are your top stories on Monday the 16th of February. Overnight firefight. Kent Fire Rescue sees off Canterbury incident that sent a pillar of smoke over the high street. County Town crackdown. Maidstone Partnership launched to tackle illegal vape sales.
And when shops refuse to sell or when they gather around stores that do sell a lot, then we get the associated antisocial behaviour and the challenges.
And flipping amazing. We take a look back at the origins of Shrove Tuesday and some traditions behind it. First, a reminder of our top story tonight. This Valentine's Day, couples on Canterbury High Street would have seen a pillar of smoke emerging from the derelict Odeon on the Ring Road. The fire service has told us that no one was injured and that the cause remains unknown. So Chloe Brewster is still down at the former Odeon now to tell us more. Chloe, can you tell us what happened?
Yes, so on Saturday at around 2 p.m, fire services were called to St George's Place at the abandoned Odeon here in Canterbury. Now that fire carried on throughout the weekend and fire services were still on scene this morning, just dampening down some patches that still weren't out yet and just dealing with all that smoke. Over the weekend it was a bit chaotic for people. You know, they had to close their windows and doors to stop all that smoke coming in. St George's Place and Dover Street still remain closed. Just coming up here now, there were police officers still on scene, stopping people from coming anywhere near. Over the weekend, Finn McDermott was down at the scene and he saw that fire while that was going on, and he has created a timeline for you guys to see what exactly happened.
At 2 p.m. on Valentine's Day, a large plume of smoke could be seen at the top of Canterbury High Street, billowing from the derelict building that was once an Odeon cinema. These images were taken at around 4 p.m. on Saturday, 2 hours after Kent Fire and Rescue Service arrived at the scene. There were around 15 fire engines that were lining New Dover Road, with multiple areas cordoned off and plenty of people watching the area. Ambulances were also at the scene. Crews continued to work throughout the night, so by the time the sun rose, the service confirmed that only some light smoke remained, but crews were still on the scene. This included 2 fire engines and a height vehicle who remained to dampen down hotspots. People living in the area were at the time advised to keep their windows and doors closed to avoid inhaling any smoke. The cinema itself closed around the time of the COVID-19 pandemic and has remained shut ever since. In a statement this morning, a fire service spokesperson said there were no signs of heat or smoke in the building. They've now told us that firefighting operations are now complete following a fire at a derelict building at St George's Place in Canterbury. The KFRS volunteer response team was also in attendance to provide welfare support to crews. We are now working with Canterbury City Council to provide support to nearby residents and businesses unable to access their properties at this time as a safety precaution. There were no reported injuries and the cause is not yet known. Finn McDermott for KMTV in Canterbury.
So the next door nightclub, Tokyo Tea Rooms, they haven't been able to enter their premises since the fire began. The owner, Louise, said she's really hopeful that there isn't any damage. The latest statement from Kent Fire and Rescue gave us a little bit of an update. So they said that firefighting operations are now complete following the fire at the derelict building. You can see just behind me there the old Odeon. At the height of the fire, 15 fire engines and 2 height vehicles are at the scene, with specialist teams working hard throughout the day and overnight to bring that fire under control. They say they are now working with Canterbury City Council to help nearby residents and businesses unable to access their properties at the time, and at the moment there are no reported injuries and the cause is not yet known. So nearby residents, it's been a bit of a chaotic weekend for them, but now it's just looking forward to finding out what actually happened here.
Chloe Brewster there bringing us that live report. Next, the Ship Inn, located in Conyers, situated between towns Faversham and Sittingbourne, dropped 4 stars after a hygiene inspection visit by Swale Borough Council. However, owner Harry Roberts says that all necessary improvements were made and that hygiene of the pub has improved greatly, but that the toll on the business has not yet recovered. Procedures exist for a reason, he says, and we hold ourselves accountable when they fall short. And that as soon as the issues were highlighted, we acted immediately. Roberts took over the pub after it had suddenly closed in 2024 and hopes to see the business bounce back following a new inspection. Next, parents are getting frustrated over the state of a disastrous footpath leading to a school where their children have to wear wellies to avoid being covered in mud. The route from the Chimlington Lakes housing estate to the neighbouring primary school has been an issue for parents since the site opened in 2021. When it first opened, parents were frustrated by the lack of safe access to the school for those coming on foot. KCC said they understand the parents' concerns and a longer-term improvement scheme is already being planned. They say the work will take place this year between April and June to improve the footpath. The surfacing works will cover the path in tarmac from Ashford Road to Mock Lane. Hopefully less muddy boots. Next, the government has announced plans to create 10,000 new foster placements for vulnerable children in England. Current regulations will be updated to make it easier for full-time workers and people from diverse backgrounds to become foster carers. The plans are backed by £88 million in funding with the aim to combat a critical shortage of carers and a drop in available placements over the past 4 years. But how will these plans affect Kent? Margaret Gardner from Diagramma Fostering joined us in the studio earlier today to tell us more.
You've got local authorities who obviously have got their own carers that they recruit and they support and care for their children. Then you've got independent fostering agencies, which Diagramma is one of, and within that there's profit-making ones and there's not-for-profit. So we're all sort of very different, and so everybody's got perhaps their own set of what they want with foster carers and what they will accept. We try to be creative. We try to look at individuals, look at what strengths they've got, look at how they're going to be able to care for a child, what flexibility they've got, what resilience, sense of humour, that's really important. But to really look and see how we can make it work if somebody really wants to foster.
Why do you think the government is cutting the red tape, I suppose you could say now, allowing more people to foster when you've already done this, or there's always been a need for more foster carers? Yeah, foster carers have really dropped in the last sort of 5 years particularly. I think COVID had a really big impact. People were then starting to work from home, so spare bedrooms became offices. Also, the cost of living crisis has really impacted onto fostering because people haven't been able to be more available, but also older children perhaps have stayed at home a lot longer. So again, spare bedrooms, which might have gone when children have left home, that hasn't happened. And so the government, we're desperately in need of new carers for children because there's 100 children a day coming into care. And so foster carers are needed for those children. So the government is really trying to make it more possible for carers to come forward. Kent County Council is investing in family hubs over £15 million from this year to 2029 to provide the support for families or reduce the need for children to enter care. Do you think enough is being done to support those children and the foster carers, with that included? Well, with that is about keeping children at home with their families longer. And, that can only be a good thing if it's the right thing for the child. So it's about making it and making sure that funding remains for the families and is looking about how funding is put in and about, where it's needed and things. But obviously funding is also needed for fostering and to develop because there's always going to be children that are coming into care. If there's no longer foster placements available, then what's happening is children are going into residential care, which is not right for many, many children. There are concerns that the government has proposed to remove fostering panels when approving carers. Can you tell me about this and if it would weaken the safeguarding for children? What do you think about that? Yes. in a short answer, I think very much it would weaken it. What happens now is foster carers, they are assessed by social workers, and then all the documentation is taken to a panel of independent people made up of a range of people that have
social workers, people in health, people in education, people who've got an interest in children. And that independence really helps to sort of focus on, are these people right to foster and care for a child? And having that independent oversight, for me, is a really strong safeguard for the people to make sure that, because people will go into fostering with the wrong intention. Because, you know, if they want to harm children, it's an easy way of getting a child delivered to their home. So we need to make sure that all safeguards are in place. And I think it would, for me personally, I think it's a poor move to try and, withdraw the panels.
So then what is your overall view of these new government plans? Do you think it's a good thing, bad thing? Are you excited? Are you apprehensive?
It's always good to have plans. It's always good when the spotlight is on fostering to sort of raise that awareness and to make people understand the sort of why we need more foster carers. I think looking at it, there's some really positive things, but I think there's also things that, like the panels, which could weaken it. And it is about making people understand that actually there's not just one type of fostering, there's lots of different types. So for people to look around, to ask the questions and to see which agency is right for them.
And it's time for another quick break, but we've still got lots of stories coming up. We will finally be talking about that pink sky that happened yesterday and maybe why it happened, and taking a bit more about look into that, if I could speak. And we'll also be finding out what's coming up in the sports show after Kent tonight and finding all about more about pancakes. See you then. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight live here on KMTV. First in Margate, wildlife enthusiast Nick Mitchell has put a peregrine falcon nesting box on the roof of Arlington House. A pair of peregrine falcons have been, got it right that time, second time, have been spotted at Arlington House for the past 6 years, but so far have not produced offspring. These birds would usually burrow a small hole in the rocks instead of building nests, but this comes with the risk that eggs could roll away or get chilled by rainwater. Nick Mitchell has said he's incredibly proud of the project and hopes it will lead to the arrival of chicks in the future. And finally, after some heavy rain yesterday evening, the sky over Kent turned a wide variety of colours, but most notably pink. All over the county, residents took to social media to share their pictures of a sunset that turned from an orange glow to an intense pink. One resident described the sky as almost ethereal, saying that they had never seen anything like it and that it was a beautiful but unnerving. While some residents suspect that this phenomenon was caused by pollution in the atmosphere, it is thought to be the torrential rain that caused the density of clouds to increase and turn these warm colours as the sun sets. It's not impossible that it could happen again, but now for the weather. It is going to be a chilly one tonight, 5 degrees across the board, 6 though up in Margate and down in Dover. Then we've got 3 across the board, clear skies tomorrow morning. Wind speeds of 20 miles per hour though up near Dover. 6 degrees across the board there tomorrow evening, but some clouds down in Royal Tunbridge Wells as well. Wind speeds slightly decreasing. 5 degrees, cloudy skies on Wednesday. Clear skies on Thursday, 6 degrees. And then on Friday we've got cloudy skies, 8 degrees. So it looks like Tuesday's a good one there. And now it's been a difficult Valentine's Day weekend for Kent's football sides, with Gills having a 1-0 loss against Crewe, Alexandra and Chatham, taking off a hit of their playoff hopes. But it's been one to remember for some other squads, with Ramsgate firing 3 past their opponent with no response and Folkestone beating Dulwich Hamlet. Finn McDermott joins me now in the story. Sorry about that, Finn.
It's okay.
Can't pronounce anything this evening. So, yes, tell us more.
Well, yeah, it's been, I don't know about you, Kristen. I had a very great, very enjoyable Valentine's Day weekend, but that was not the case for a lot of Kent's football sides. As you mentioned there, Chatham suffering a draw, which at this stage of the season for them is going to hit them hard. They're really hoping to break into these top playoff spots in the Isthmian League Premier. They're wanting to take maybe the top spot from Folkestone Invicta. Folkestone had been on an unbelievable 6-game run that currently sees them sitting in pole position. So they are hopefully primed to jump into the next division, the National League South. But as I say, it wasn't so great for some of the other Kentish sides. Maidstone United suffered. Their away form hasn't been amazing this season, so they suffered, going a goal down to lose away at Chippenham. They'll actually be playing in just under an hour against Chelmsford. That is also an away match, so they'll see if George Ellacobi's side can pick up some of that form. Tunbridge suffered a real heartbreaker on Valentine's Day. They ended up losing 3-2 against Hornchurch. Another away fixture. Don't know if you're seeing a pattern there. Dover fans, unfortunately, your game, you all know, was postponed, but fingers crossed you can gain some more points back before that match is replayed at a later date. You'll be going up against Weston-super-Mare. I believe that's being hosted at the Crabble Stadium, so not too far to travel. But as you mentioned there, it is Dulwich Hamlet that ended up losing to Folkestone Invicta 2-0. Folkestone Invicta are displaying a really great defensive acumen at the minute, really managing to win these games, whether it's 2-0, 4-0 or 5-0. Sorry about that one, Lewis fans. They're doing it all with a very solid wall at the back. Also, I want to give a shout out to Ramsgate. They managed to fire 3 past Brentwood Town. They're really having an incredible season. This is their first season, in fact, from the lower leagues. So they're doing very well to survive in the Isthmian League Premier. I wouldn't be surprised if in a few seasons' time we're talking about them as playoff contenders. And it's really great to see another one of these Kent sides coming up and doing so well. So maybe we could see that from Margate, hopefully, when depending on their results. But as I say, we've got some very interesting games coming up. To give you a brief highlight, some Folkestone Invicta fans will be able to catch their match on YouTube. They'll be going up against #United, the all internet YouTube stars that have been doing very well. And a brief solemn sorry to all the Gills fans out there for the 1-0 loss away to Crewe Alexandra. They'll be heading to Chesterfield tomorrow. They've beaten them at home resoundingly, but I don't know if their away form is going to be up to scratch. And that's about all I can say about Kent's football.
All right, Finn, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll find out more in Invicta Sport.
Absolutely.
Now, don't forget, you can keep up to date with all our latest stories across Kent by logging on to our website, kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find all our stories, including this one.
Suited and booted, RNLI's Dan Sinclair might look like he's on the brink of another risky rescue. But he's actually preparing for a different kind of endurance challenge.
So in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be doing the Deal Half Marathon, and then on the 26th of April, we're going to be doing the London Marathon. But the slight twist is that we're going to be wearing full RNLI kit.
I thought 26.2 miles for a charitable cause seemed noble enough, until Dan talked me through the very heavy and very warm layers of clothing he'd pledged to do it in.
Full kit consists of a thermal base layer, a dry suit, which has got integrated welly boots with steel toe caps, a life jacket and a helmet. So it's the full kit, what the crews go out to help people in the sea. We're going to be running 13 miles and then 2 months later, 26 miles. So it's going to be quite an ask.
But it wasn't all just about dressing up.
Now, Warmer Lifeboat Station is one of around 8 RNLI stations in Kent, and this one here is made entirely of volunteers.
And Dan is one of them, having signed up to volunteer almost 2 decades ago as an 18-year-old. Fundraising to keep the charity he loves going after years of service is only one of the benefits to working there.
It's not my whole life, but it's a big part of my life, you know, and it's the fundraising thing. I get a lot from doing the fundraising and the educational stuff, like teaching children. My daughter's 6, so to teach children how to float to live, you know, what to do if they get an emergency, who to call, how to do it, you know, what not to do, and then have them kids come up to you on a Saturday, you know, and be like, Dan, you taught me how to do this. And when you might be having a bit of an off day, but when you see a child and you forgot what they look like, because we've educated lots of children, and they know you by name, and they come up to you and say, thank you so much, what you've taught us is really, really great. That just restores everything, and it's like, oh, that's why I do it.
And with just over 2 months to go until the big race, Dan has his sights set on making sure everything is shipshape. Megan Shaw for KMTV in Warmer.
And tomorrow marks Shrove Tuesday, or Pancake Day, here in the UK. When thinking about Pancake Day, the words lemon and sugar may come to mind, but the origins of the day go back thousands of years. The day is in fact a Christian tradition, which marks the beginning of Lent. But to tell us more, I'm joined now by Ellie Reynolds. So, tell me about where it came from.
So the day was once linked to confession. The word Shrove, from Shrove Tuesday, comes from the word sherving, which is associated with the act of cleansing the soul before Lent. So the tradition can be seen as far back as the Anglo-Saxon period. They would have been called to confession by a ringing bell and then shriven through confession so that their souls were ready for Lent.
And why do we eat pancakes on that particular day?
So historically, Shrove Tuesday was the final day to use up rich and indulgent foods that people may have to give up for Lent. So these included foods such as dairy products and eggs, which are 2 major ingredients in pancakes we make today.
Yes, of course, and we can see some on screen as well. I think that's a crepe being made, lovely.
Yeah, so the thin pancakes are what we more traditionally make in this country for Shrove Tuesday, rather than those thicker American-style pancakes.
Okay, lovely. Some great pictures there on screen. And is there any other historical traditions for Shrove Tuesday other than making pancakes?
So one that's actually quite funny, and you'll see it across the UK, is pancake flipping competitions. So this apparently started back in 1445 when a housewife was making pancakes with her frying pan or something of the sort, and then she heard the church bells ring, but she was still frying on this frying pan. So she went to church, frying pan in hand, apron on, all the way, ready to go. And that's how the tradition of these pancake flipping competitions started. I think there's a few happening in Kent over the next few weeks, but nowadays we just debate over what is the best topping to put on those pancakes. Personally, I like a chocolate spread and strawberry.
Really? That's why we had it on screen, isn't it?
That is my favourite there. What about you? What would you go for?
I do like the chocolate strawberries. I think second would probably be the sugar and lemon, maybe a bit of maple syrup.
Oh,
if
very
I'm feeling mature, what about you?
Well,
what's your second?
Second favourite, I think I'd have to go for lemon and sugar as well. Sometimes I find that bacon and maple, a little bit too sweet for me.
Yeah, you just need to cleanse the palate a little bit with some lemon at the end, don't you? Well, that's very interesting, Italy, and we'll be covering that more tomorrow evening when it's actually Pancake Tuesday. So, I mean, what do you do on Pancakes Tuesday? Do you make pancakes?
Traditionally, yeah, every evening I make the pancakes, not unlike those Anglo-Saxons. But yeah, there's no exact date as to when actually making the pancakes started, but it is believed to be that using up that surplus of those eggs and dairy, that is the reason why it transformed into pancakes. And that tradition was said to have started more around the Middle Ages.
Okay, very interesting. So, yes, if you have anything happening over the week, over tomorrow, you're having any races or breaking any world records, I know that that's something that has happened quite frequently with relation to Pancake Tuesday, please let us know. And yes, so in regard as well to when I said ethereal, in regard to the pink sky, I meant ethereal,